Hi, my name is DJ Dan Dan, and I'm the president and CEO of Soulful House Nation. Soulful House Nation really is a movement, and what we're looking to do is we're going to bring the soulful house music and the lifestyle to the forefront. Soulful house music is approximately 40 years old, and it's been underground for the most part the whole time. And our movement will bring it to the forefront. There's a whole audience out here that has not been exposed to this music, and we're going to expose them to this music, and we know they're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. If you haven't heard this, you're gonna love it. Soulful house music is the original house music, and all the music that you hear today is based on this. Now, in a little bit, I'm going to give you a little bit of a history, but what I want to tell you right now is that there are 7 parts that we're going to focus on. They are the producers, the dancers, the promoters, the artists, the DJs, the sound people, and the fashion. Once you get an understanding of it, once you get the feel of it, and once you hear the sound, you're going to be into Soulful House. And the Soulful House Nation will be the catalyst to bring that forward. Let's take a look at the history of Soulful House. Back in the late 70s, but mostly in the early 80s, there was this sound coming out of Chicago. It originally started out as disco music, and what they started doing, they started adding heavier bass lines, bigger drum beats, kick drums, to make this sound a little bit different. And what happened was, they would come into clubs and start playing it. Now, here's how we got the name house. There was a place called The Warehouse where a DJ by the name of Frankie Knuckles, who was the godfather of house, and unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years ago, about maybe 2 years, give or take. But he would play in this place called The Warehouse. And people would say, okay, I'm going to the warehouse, going to the warehouse, going to the warehouse, going to the warehouse. And after a while, people started to say, well, listen, I'm going to hear the warehouse music. And then as people do, little by little, it went from warehouse to house music. So hence the name, where the name house music came from. Now, what I'm going to do is I want to focus on a particular style of house music. The original house music was soulful house music. That name came later, but originally was house, but it became soulful after they had to make distinctions between the different styles of music. So what happened as the Frankie Knuckles of the world were playing, then there were also another really key figure was Larry Levan. That was from the Garage, which many people have heard of. He was one of the originators of this style of music. Also, too, back in those days, you also had Tony Humphries, who is still around today. Unfortunately, Larry Levan also passed. And also, then a little bit later on, you have gentlemen like Timmy Regisford, who is still around and still making music and that kind of stuff. So now, fast forward a little bit, they decide that there's music that's going to be played and they want to play it all over, but it never really breaks in the United States like it could have in other places. It broke in other cities across the pond. Really, in Europe, it really started to break really big. And we just never got the love here in the United States. But underground, there is a huge audience. Let me give you a couple of some of the artists from back in those days. Lolita Holloway, and you still hear her music today. There was also First Choice, was another big artist back then. There were other people who made the music like Adonis, who made No Way Back. And let's not forget Marshall Jefferson. Marshall Jefferson is the one who made the house music anthem called, everybody will recognize when they say, gotta have house music. Well, anyway, this goes back to the 80s also, and this all came out of that Chicago sound. Well, fast forward, then there were some guys in Detroit that were into the house, and they started making music, but they were working with these drum machines making different sounds. And they started making what now today we refer to as techno. Later on, there are other styles of music that came out of it. Some of the more popular are deep house, there's acid house, there's trance, there's EDM or electronic dance music, and then there's a host of it. Now, unfortunately, in a situation like this, I can't name all the people because there are a lot more people who were very, very influential at the time. But I'm giving you some names of people who you can readily look up, readily hear their music, and go and grow with. So that's a little bit of the history. Today, the music is still played in the United States. In fact, every year they have some very, very big events. Probably the biggest event is the one in Chicago, done by the Chosen Few. And then, of course, one or two of the big events that are done in this area are by the Soul Summit, also Prospect Park, there's a big one, and of course, Magic, who does his Big Bang thing. Some of the songs from back in the day were really, really huge club bangers. Many of them are still around today. I'm going to name a few that you may recognize. Number one, Love Sensation. That's a remixed, and that was a tremendous, tremendous hit, and it still captures the dance floor today. Number two, another one, First Choice. First Choice, Let No Man Put Asunder, was a big one back then. Another one was Your Love. That was another one. Then there could go with Steve Silk Hurley and those guys, and they made stuff like Jack Your Body. There were other ones. There were ones by some of the artists who are not still around today, but maybe you'll recognize some of the songs like Mainline by Black Ivory, which they took that song. That was a group that was known for making mostly ballads, love ballads, and for whatever reason they decided they were going to make this song Mainline. That's still a classic. And then how can you ever forget, which you can't forget, Love Is the Message. They mixed that, remixed that. They made multiple upside down, top side up, but that's like one of the all-time favorites. Some other things that they did back then were Bra Samande, which they used in that environment. And of course, they would start that from the break and play that over and over. So those are just a few of the songs that were really big back in the day. Some of the singers included Lolita Holloway, MFSB, I'd say singers / bands, musicians, MFSB, First Choice, Steve Silk Hurley, Jack Master Farley. There was 10 City was back then, who now is Byron Stingley, who does his thing on his own. So those are some of the people who were really big. Marshall Jefferson, you cannot forget, who again, he made house music, the house music anthem. Love Can't Turn Around. So there were a lot of different things that were going on, and this was music that was played back then, and today you can still play these songs, and these would be called our classics here. So that's a little bit of that. Some of the DJs from back then, again, Frankie Knuckles, Larry Levan. There was a gentleman by the name of Richard Wright, Tony Humphries. A little bit later on, but still going way back, Timmy Regisford. These are some of the people who made it happen, and they were really, really big back in those days. You're watching Soulful House Nation. I'm DJ Dan Dan, and we'll be right back. Let's talk about record companies. The original record company of choice was Trax Record. And Trax Records was in Chicago, and there was a gentleman there by the name of Marshall Jefferson. Again, he's the one who created the house music anthem. And he would listen for the owner of the company to spot good music. And they would go and make the music and put these songs on wax. Now, here's how this happened. Once the drum machines came out, the producers started putting beats together. And of course, since they didn't have the record companies and distribution, they would go to Trax, and Trax was pretty much that company of choice, and that was pretty much the only game in town, and they would have them press it on wax. But now here's what started to happen. When it started to get big and it started to show up on the radar, then companies like Columbia and MCA and other majors, RCA, started signing up some of these artists. And here's what they would do. You would take a regular song, for example, and they would make a house version out of it. Just like you'd hear a song today where they had, say, an English version, and then they might make it into a reggae style, or they might make it into a Latin style. And the same kind of thing happened. So there was this whole flood of things done by the majors. Unfortunately, after a while, the majors kind of lost interest because they really, in my opinion, didn't work that music the way it should have been worked. And then, like anything else, it went down. But now here's the thing. The music went down as far as the majors were concerned. However, it didn't go down as far as the people were concerned. So therefore, you had a lot of, and still do have a lot of independent labels making their own music and making their own tracks. Now here's what's interesting. In light of the fact that we have the internet and the social media, that gave an opportunity for more and more artists, producers, and others related to that whole flow, an opportunity to make music without getting the permission of these major labels or any label. They can produce their own stuff. And many times they didn't even have to put it on wax. They could take it right from their laptops or right from their computers or right from their drum machines, take that music, upload it, and now it's out. Next thing that's happening here is you needed stuff to play this on. Let's talk about the equipment. Equipment comes in a couple different forms. First of all, there's the studio equipment, and that's the equipment that you make that music on. Now here's what a lot of people don't know. A lot of people don't know that most of the music that you hear today on the radio, whether it's house or not, is made on a computer or a drum machine or some type of machine. Very rarely is the music made with musicians and instruments. Maybe on a jazz station some more, every once in a while. Now back in the 70s and 80s, a lot of the music was made with musicians, but not today. Now, so there's software programs. The major ones are Ableton, Pro Tools, Fruity Loops, there's Logic, there's Cube, a couple others, but those are the major programs. Now, that's on the inside of things. Now you got to play the stuff outside. Here's what we got. You have turntables, which we used mostly in the older days, but now, not so much. Then, today you also have guys still using CDs, but more and more in Soulful House, people are moving to laptops and computers. They're using controllers, they're using CD decks. Some of the major controller names, the number one name in that field is Pioneer, in terms of your CD decks, in terms of your controllers. Controller is a piece of equipment where you use that to manipulate the music that's on the laptop. Pioneer's the number one brand. Some other brands out there are Newmark, Denon is another one that's coming up. But those are your top three, but Pioneer is the number one here. Next is sound equipment that it comes out. Okay, so now you're using, in general, there's a few brands that people use. If you're using bigger stuff, you're gonna see brands like JBL, Electro Voice or EV, Yorkville. Then you have companies coming out of Italy called, like, for example, FBT. And you're gonna hear these type of things in terms of your speakers and that kind of stuff. In terms of effects, a lot of computer software makes effects. And the three major ones are Rekordbox, which is Pioneer, Tractor, which is mostly used, it's probably the biggest one in the world, but it's used more in Europe than it is United States, and Serato. Serato is one of the big ones in the United States. They also have equipments. They have effects machines. So when you put all that, and mixers, and some of the mixers have effects on it, and then you have outboard effects machines also. So when you put it all together, you have the software and you have the hardware. The software is used mostly on the inside, the laptop computers. The hardware is used on the outside. You play the music, the speakers, those things. Here are some of the new people that are making noise in the Soulful House world. And I just want to tell you, I'm leaving out a lot of people because the list is so huge. However, these are some people that come to mind. I mentioned Lynn Lockamy before. Dawn Tallman, making great stuff. Josh Milan, making great stuff. Mark Evans, Barbara Tucker, Monique Bingham, but also too, Jill Scott. But now, watch this. What they're doing with Jill Scott is taking some of her songs that she did in the R&B format and changing that and giving it a house beat and a house feel. So those are some of the things that happen. As we move this thing forward, watch for that to happen. You know, right now as we speak, every time they come out with a song, they do new versions. I'm in a record pool where I get music all the time, and I'll get 6, 7 different mixes of the same song. And as the Soulful House music movement grows, you're gonna see that happen more and more. Let me tell you what we're gonna do and what's coming. Okay. We believe in this music. This music is very, very powerful. It will move you. Unfortunately, most people haven't heard of it and don't know what it is. So we're gonna bring it forward, we're gonna put it on the big stage. And I believe that once people start to hear it and they start to get the flow of it, they're gonna insist on having it. We've got a couple things lined up for you that we're gonna do. As I said in the beginning, there are several parts to this. There's the producers, there's the promoters, there's the artists, there's the DJs, there's the dancers, there's the sound people, there's the fashion. If you want, we could add the places where you're gonna have it. There's a lot to come. Watch for us, watch this movement, but more importantly, watch and listen for the music. I want to take a couple minutes and just to name some of the DJs in the area, because DJs are important because they're the ones that play the music. After they produce it, after they make the sounds, after you get the dancers lined up, and you have all these other things in place, somebody's got to put that music together. Now, as a DJ, myself, who plays this style of music, I recognize some of the masters of the business, some of the people who are more well-known. Now, again, I'm not going to name all the DJs, but I'm going to name a few who I'm going to say that you should look for. In this area, for example, you have DJ Beloved. DJ Beloved is is the premier DJ in this style of music. DJ Jihad Muhammad, DJ Naeem Johnson, also too DJ Messiah are some of the ones in this area. Then of course out of Baltimore area, you have DJ Spen. And what I want to tell you about most of these DJs is not only do they make the music, but they also produce music. So they make the music, produce it, and play it. So these are some people that you should watch out for in the next couple of months, especially as we start to roll out the Soulful House Nation. I've had a great time, and hopefully you've had a great time too. If you'd like more information or to contact us, you can reach us at soulfulhousenation@gmail.com, or you can go to our website, soulfulhousenation.com, or you can send us an email at djdandan@soulfulhousenation.com. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we've built up a real thirst for this music. Let's check out some videos.